Moving on, let me deal with this runaway traffic situation. We note this over the weeks. Let me just give you quickly. Several fatal accidents over the past few. We had the death of the police constable in front of the Bedford police station. Then we have my Mercury woman dies after reportedly crashing into a parked vehicle. You have a Williamsburg man dies on the West Coast Borbies, where two lorries, they say, going in opposite direction. There was some smoke, and one man said he slowed down, and the next man just ran into him. Somebody died in that accident. Fisherman dies at Beehive in Beehive accident. He was struck by a car, which was, they say, driven by a corporal of the Ghana Defense Force. Then we have a pensioner dies by accident on the highway, 78-year-old pedestrian. Then we had a motorcyclist killed by a drunk driver. Police said that was a result of the collision. And this is amusing. The police said that as a result of the collision, I'm quoting here, the motorcyclist was flung in the air, then fell on the windscreen of the car, and ended up on the northern side of the road with his leg dislocated. I saw anybody who saw this thing last week or before the last, leg dislocated. The man's leg was completely severed, and it could have been seen on the tape, two men picking up the severed leg and taking it in the side of the road while the remainder of the body was there. The police release said the man's leg was dislocated. I had to go into the dictionary, to see what is the meaning of dislocation. Because I said, baby, them Brighton, I know that I done, but I said, well, let me check and see. They said the man's leg was dislocated when the man's leg was completely severed. And the dictionary told me that I am correct. That is not dislocation. That's completely severed is not dislocation. Then they go on to say, then we had a man charged with the Madwini fatal accident placed on $1.5 million bail. We had a case to where two trucks collided at Aurora Gold Mines, killing one of the drivers. And so you have all of these accidents, and we're not seeing any action to deal with it. I learned from I think it was yesterday or today, most likely today, this morning early, because I get up early in the morning and read, that the driver on the accident at BV that killed the police constable is charged for motor manslaughter. There was an amendment to the Motor Vehicle and Road Traffic Act last year, which says, and let me read what the amendment says. I like to go to the law, I like to go to the law, and what the amendment says. Bear with me 1 minute, please. I have it here. I downloaded it this morning. Section 35A1. This is the amendment. Any person who causes the death of another person by driving a motor vehicle on a road or other public place while under the influence of drink or drug to such an extent as to be incapable of having proper control of the vehicle shall be guilty of motor manslaughter and shall be liable on conviction or on indictment to a term of imprisonment of less than 10 years. Now, several questions, and I'm going to teach here now for the police. Several questions. The man is charged for motor manslaughter. Good, that is good. That is good. So if he's convicted, he's going to face up to 10 years. Excellent. Excellent. But hear the story. Hear what the law is saying. I want to bring this to your attention quite clearly. And I hope that the traffic chief and all of those people who are listening will take heed. It says that if you drive on a road or other place while under the influence of drink or drug to such an extent, causing the death. Now, the important thing here, in order for this section to be effective, or for you to get a conviction, you have to prove that at the time of driving, this person was under the influence of drinks or drugs to such an extent as to be incapable of having proper control of the vehicle. Therein lies the problem. As we know, most of these cases where people are charged for driving under the influence and they plead not guilty, many of those cases people walk because the police cannot give the evidence properly to convict the persons. It means, therefore, that if you cannot give the evidence about this person being drunk at the time of the accident, the person will walk. The person will walk because the law is specific that the person has to be under the influence of drugs or alcohol to such an extent as to be incapable of committing the vehicle. Therein lies the problem, folks. So I'm hoping that they're taking note. And let me say this before I bring Mr. Conway and I have something more to say about it. But let me say this. If we are going to charge for motor manslaughter, which I believe we should, that once a person is found under the influence and you're going to charge with motor manslaughter, I believe we have to get back to the stage where CID investigating these matters. In the past, I remember when I joined in the 70s, all fatal accidents were investigated by ranks from the Criminal Investigation Department. That fatal accident is an ordinary investigation. You got to take caution statements. You got to take all other statements. And I am not sure that the traffic ranks are equipped to properly take a caution statement. So I am recommended that you got to get back to the stage where the CID ranks will investigate accidents, all causing death accidents. And if you're going to charge a motor manslaughter, even more, right? So you can't, well, you have to investigate first to determine that. And let me say further, that the breath test that is being administered, and the breath test is when you're going to blow in the breathalyzer and you get a reading as to whether you're over the legal limit or not. The breath test alone should not be the evidence to be presented in court. The law provides, there was an amendment in 2008 for the Motor Vehicle and Road Traffic Act to make the use of the breathalyzer legal. And I have alluded to it on this program before. What is being conducted routinely by the police is a breath test. Now, the law provides for also a breath analysis. And I am saying that if you're going to charge people with motor manslaughter, not only the breath test, but then following the test, you have to do a breath analysis. I did in 2008 a SOP on the use of the breath test and the breath analysis. It is there. I have a copy. Standing, but I have it here. Look, I have a copy of this standing on the SOP. And I will tell you that you can either pull it up, or if you can't pull it up, I am willing to share. I have it. And if you certain people reach out to me, you're going to get it. Because it was detailed. It was detailed. It started out by saying that the Motor Vehicle and Road Traffic Act, Chapter 1501, has been amended to make it an offense for a person to drive or attempt to drive or be in charge of a motor vehicle while on the road or a public place if he has consumed alcohol in such a quantity that the proportion thereof in his breath or blood exceed the prescribed breath or blood. And I went on to outline, to explain what is a breath test, what it is a breath analysis. And let me say further, for breath analysis to be conducted, the appropriate equipment has to be installed at specific locations. I don't know if they have that. I don't know that they have that. So Minister Ben, somebody tell Minister Ben, because the law provides for the Minister Ben to identify persons who are qualified to administer the breath analysis. Folks, the thing is there in the SOP that I wrote. I mean, you can tell some things might be outdated, no problem. But it is there. And I'm saying that if you're going to charge it for motor manslaughter, you have to make sure that this SOP is updated and that the ranks are taught how to deal with it. Because with the breath analysis, which is done at the station, and to analyze the blood, the law makes it clear that you do two. Two have to be done, and they tell you within what time. And it goes on to say that the reading, the lower reading shall be taken as they want. And if the person refuses, all of this is there, step by step. When you stop a person on the road, step by step, it is there. And again, I say, do not rely alone on the blood test, the breath test, where a person just blow and it gives a reading. Go to the analysis. Go to the analysis so you can analyze the blood and you get more evidence. Let me bring in CC. I've said a mouthful. I have more to say, but let me bring in CC. Yeah, CC, your take on this.
Well, first, I'm happy that they have gone to the amended act and moving to charge person for manslaughter. But apart from manslaughter, in the same act, 35A1(2), saying any person who causes grievous bodily harm to another person by the driving of a motor vehicle on the road or other public place while under the influence of drink or drug to such an extent as to be incapable of having proper control of the vehicle shall be liable on conviction and indictment to a term of imprisonment of not less than 5 years. So apart from motor manslaughter, persons could be charged on this act for grievous bodily harm when while driving under the influence of drink or drug. But as you rightly mentioned, Paul, there are certain elements of the charge that you've got to satisfy. And you talk about the breath analysis. And the thing is that the instruments has got to be calibrated. I remember when we had started early after the act was in place, the National Bureau of Standards didn't have the equipment to calibrate those things you're talking about, to do the breath test analysis, and also even to the radar, the guns there. And we had to send some of those instruments. We sent a limited amount to Trinidad for this to be done. I think I heard, by the way, that the Bureau of Standards can now do that. But they got to ensure that those things are properly calibrated and the proper evidence is given. And as you mentioned, that persons got to be gazetted. The ministers got to name the person, and the name got to publish in the official gazette. And all those evidence has got to come out in court, or the cases will go overboard. And we have many cases where the persons plead not guilty, and the police can't prove the case, that they can't give the evidence. So come back to training of persons and come back to having the relevant equipment, and they are in so that they're in proper order and they're calibrated regularly that this must be done. So if they're making the move to charge for manslaughter, it's a good move, but the elements of the crime, we got to make sure that we cover all the elements of the crime, or persons gonna walk as how persons walk already. Persons get charged and under the influence, and they walk freely because we cannot give the police. I was saying that the police cannot give the evidence, and then we're saying they got to be gazetted. I don't know. I mean, I don't know the circumstances at BV there, but I don't know if they had the equipment to do the analysis there. But that's how the story goes.
Well, I am not sure that they have any breath analysis machine installed any place. That is the thing. I don't think they have breath analysis. I'm hoping I'm wrong, because up to when I was there, and this is a long time, so they had a lot of time to put it right. They have the breath, the test machine. That is where you blow, but the law provides for a breath analysis or a blood analysis, and that is critical if you're going to charge. Somebody is saying here, reminding me that a person can refuse to remind. John says that a driver can also refuse to take the test. Yes, he can, but the law caters to that. The law caters that if you refuse to take the test, what steps should be taken. And we're saying that the policemen have to be taught. I have it here in the SOP. It's all of that is mentioned. If the person refuses, what should happen? If the person tests above the limit on the road, what steps should be taken? All of that is laid out in sequence. And I am imploring the officers and the police to get the standing order. Or if you don't want to use slow's work, then get together and put together a proper standing order. Because you have ranks on the road who I'm sure 99% of them, or perhaps all of them, have not been trained how to give evidence in these cases in court. So when they're going to court, the whole case falls down. I don't think they have a single case where a person pleads not guilty to driving under the influence of alcohol, especially after a fatal accident where those persons are convicted. Not a single one, because the policemen are not trained to give the evidence. The evidence has to be about the machine that you use, the calibration to satisfy the court that the machine is accurate. No court will take judicial notice that this machine is working properly. You have got to lead the evidence. Policemen have got to be taught how to lead the evidence. They have to be taught. and that it's all there in the order. And I am saying again for emphasis, one, all these accidents now should be investigated. That's the fatal accidents, should be investigated by ranks of the Criminal Investigation Department, because cautions have to be admitted to the driver. The driver may choose to give a caution statement. You have to have trained people, because if he gives a caution statement, you have to have people who are trained to make sure that they know how to give the evidence in court. So if it comes to a voir dire, which is a trial within a trial to determine the admissibility of the caution statement, people are trained to do that. I don't know that the traffic ranks are trained to give evidence in relation to caution statement. So it's good to have these laws amended. But the next step, as I've said, when this was amended in 2008, we took the next step to have SOPs so the ranks understand what should go on. 2022, this law was amended. And I'm not sure between 2022 and now, there are anything done to make sure that you pull people together, you put a SOP, and you train people how to administer this new law. And there's a sad part. You're just showing people out on the road. Something happens now, and they're going to court. First of all, many of them are afraid to go to court. They're afraid because they don't have that type of training. Going to court, going to a witness box is not an easy thing. You have to be trained. You do mock trials and all of that. Because when you go in the witness box with a battery of lawyers licking you down left, right, and center, you have to be calm. You have to be trained to do that. Policemen just jam. When I said jam, you mean report sick. They got to go to court. I was in court recently with this conspiracy to commit fraud matter, and I see people trembling. Officers going in the witness box, trembling. I remember one of the days, a rank went in, a female rank. She went into the box in her police uniform to give the evidence. And it wasn't that she had no blows. But shortly after, when the matter was adjourned, I saw her in civilian clothes. So I said, well, madam, how you were able to change so quickly? The laugh, she said, sir, the clothes that I had on, the uniform get wet, a sweat. And that was not from the atmosphere in the court. That was some little questions that were asked. It is not an easy thing. The ranks have to be trained. And it's the administration of the force that is responsible for ensuring that ranks are properly trained. Again, I close this part by saying that the charging of this man for motor manslaughter is in the right direction. However, you have got to make sure that you look at the elements. And one of the most critical elements, apart from proving that the person died and all of that, which is routine, is to prove that at the time of the collision, the person was under the influence of alcohol or drugs to such an extent that they were incapable. And the breathalyzer deals with alcohol. So what happened to the drugs part? What happened to the drugs part? That is why we're saying that you have to make sure that proper analysis, even it might really mean the person has to go to a medical institution to have the blood test and all of that. Other than that, I have a suspicion that these things are going to go overboard. And that will be a real travesty, given the fact that this woman, the policewoman, died under such tragic circumstances whilst on duty in front of the station. She's killed by a reckless driver.